It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Epictetus. Most people hear a quote like that and scroll past it. But if you really sit with it, even just for a second, it hits different. Because deep down you know it's true. Life is unpredictable, unfair, chaotic. But what separates those who thrive from those who stay stuck isn't talent, it's not intelligence, and it's definitely not luck. It's mindset. More specifically, it's this mindset, the Stoic mindset, a way of seeing the world that's brutally honest but also deeply empowering. A mindset that teaches you how to stay calm when things fall apart, how to focus on what actually matters, and how to stop letting life control you. In this video, we're going to break down exactly why the Stoic mindset sets winners apart from everyone else. Not in a hypey, motivational way, but in a way that's grounded, ancient, and still ridiculously useful today. If you're into this kind of content, quiet strength, clear thinking, and timeless ideas, take a second to like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe. It really helps, and I appreciate it. Now, let's get into it. There's this core Stoic idea that's almost too obvious. But once you really understand it, like actually feel it, you start seeing the world completely differently. It's called the dichotomy of control, and here's what it means. There are only two kinds of things in life: stuff you can control and stuff you can't. That's it. You control your thoughts, your actions, your effort, your mindset, but you don't control how other people act. You don't control the past. You don't control the randomness of life or whether the universe feels like cooperating today. Now that sounds simple, but most people still live like the opposite is true. They wake up and immediately start worrying about external things. How do I look? Will this post get likes? Why didn't they text me back? What if I fail? They treat life like it's supposed to follow some perfect script, and when it doesn't, they fall apart. But people who actually succeed, people who grow and win and keep showing up even when things are hard, they don't waste time fighting reality. They focus on their own lane. They zoom in on their zone of control, and that's where they stay. Think about athletes. A tennis player can't control their opponent. They can't control the weather, the umpire, or the crowd, but they can control how they prepare. They can control their serve. They can control whether they lose their head or keep their focus. Same thing in creative work. A writer can't control how many people buy their book. They can't control the algorithm or what trends, but they can control whether they write every day. They can control whether they keep putting their work out there, even when nobody's watching. Even in relationships, it's the same story. You can't control how someone feels about you. You can't control whether they stay or leave, but you can control whether you're honest, whether you're kind, whether you show up with integrity, and whether you respect yourself. That's real power. That's the kind of mindset that holds up when life stops going your way. And if you've been alive for more than 5 minutes, you already know life will stop going your way. This is where most people get stuck. They spend so much time obsessing over things they have no influence on. What people think of them, what could go wrong, what already went wrong, and it drains them. The Stoics saw this clearly. Epictetus, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, was born a slave. He had no freedom, no money, and barely any safety. But what did he say? You may not control the circumstances, but you can always control your response. That's not just philosophy. That's not just a nice quote to toss around. That's how you survive. That's how you win on any playing field. It's not about being perfect. It's not about being cold or emotionless. It's about shifting your energy away from what you wish you could control and pouring it into what you actually can. That's the difference between people who spin in circles and people who actually move forward. Winners don't chase outcomes. They take ownership of effort. They don't wait for the world to hand them peace. They create it, right where they are. And that shift, that one mindset shift, is where the rest of it begins. Most people live their lives trying to avoid discomfort at all costs. They chase convenience, comfort, ease. But the Stoics didn't see discomfort as something to run from. They saw it as something to train for. There's this powerful concept from Seneca called voluntary discomfort, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Choosing to do hard things, on purpose, not because you like pain, not because you want to suffer, but because life will get hard eventually. And if you've never built the muscle for it, you're going to break the second things stop being easy. Seneca wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" He wasn't talking about being poor. He was talking about preparing for it, facing the fear, tasting it, and realizing it's not as scary as you thought. Think about that. Everyone wants resilience. Everyone wants to be mentally strong. But you don't get that by accident. You build it by practicing. Cold shower instead of hot. Skip a meal and sit with the hunger. Walk instead of drive. Sleep on the floor for a night. Cut out distractions. Do the workout when you don't feel like it. Say no to something easy, just to prove to yourself that you can. It sounds small, but it adds up. These tiny moments of voluntary struggle train your brain to stop fearing discomfort. They make you calm when things go sideways, because you've already been there. It's like mental calluses, and most people don't have them. They avoid pain until life forces it on them. And when that happens, they panic. They fall apart. They blame the world. But the people who've practiced, who've trained themselves to be okay with less, they adapt, they bend but don't break. That's the Stoic advantage. You're not waiting for adversity to hit before you learn how to handle it. You're preparing now while things are still good, so that when things get bad, you don't have to start from zero. This mindset shows up in every area of life. In fitness, it's the athlete who trains in the off-season, so they're ready when it counts. In business, it's the person who keeps their skills sharp before the layoffs happen. In everyday life, it's the one who's practiced self-denial, so they're not addicted to every craving, every impulse, every little high. The Stoics believed that if you can choose your pain, it loses its power over you, and that's something no one can take away. So yeah, life will be uncomfortable sometimes, but if you've trained for it, if you've made peace with struggle, then when the storm hits, you're not surprised. You're ready. And that's what separates winners from everyone else. So yeah, life will be uncomfortable sometimes, but if you've trained for it, if you've made peace with struggle, then when the storm hits, you're not surprised, you're ready. And when you're ready, you don't panic. That's the next piece. Because it's not just the hard moments that break people, it's how they react to them emotionally. Most people don't think, they feel, and then they act based on that feeling without slowing down. Fear hits and they freeze, anger hits and they lash out. They get anxious, jealous, stressed, and it throws them off track. The Stoics saw this coming 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius, who, by the way, ran a whole empire while dealing with war, disease, and constant political backstabbing, wrote this in his journal. "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." He wasn't saying emotions are bad. He was saying emotions are just data, not commands. They're signals, not steering wheels. Winners get this. They don't repress their emotions. They just don't let them take the wheel. They create space between stimulus and response. Something stressful happens, they pause, they breathe, they zoom out. And then they respond from a place of clarity, not chaos. You see this everywhere in people who perform under pressure. Think about a CEO in a crisis. Revenue's dropping. People are freaking out. Everyone's looking to them. But they stay calm. They gather the facts. They make decisions, not emotional outbursts. Or think about a pro athlete. They miss a shot. The crowd turns on them, but they don't spiral. They reset. They focus on the next play. That's what Stoics call equanimity. A steady mind, not cold, not numb, just unshaken. And that takes practice. It takes awareness. It means not trusting your first reaction. It means being able to say, yeah, I'm angry right now, but I don't have to act angry. Or I feel anxious, but I can still move forward. This doesn't mean you ignore what you feel. It means you own it so it doesn't own you. And that's the real edge. Because while most people are spinning out, chasing highs or avoiding lows, the ones who stay steady get to choose their actions. They can lead, they can create, they can perform, because they're not being pulled around by every emotion that shows up. As Marcus put it, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That's emotional discipline. That's stoicism in action. And it's one more reason why winners move differently. That's emotional discipline. That's stoicism in action. And it's one more reason why winners move differently. But here's the thing. Even emotional control isn't enough by itself. It keeps you steady, sure. But where are you steering? That's where this mindset really separates people. Because Stoics don't just stay calm. They live by principles. They've got a code. They've a set of values that doesn't change just because their mood does. And that's rare. Most people, they bounce around based on how they feel. They chase comfort, praise, validation. They do what's easy, or what's popular, or what gets the most likes. But winners, the real ones, don't follow feelings. They follow virtues. The Stoics had 4: wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. That's it. That's the code. Wisdom, seeing things clearly. Courage, doing what's hard when it's right. Justice, treating others fairly. Temperance, knowing when enough is enough. It's like a moral GPS. It doesn't get thrown off by traffic, weather, or your mood that day. It keeps pointing north. So while everyone else is chasing what feels good in the moment, Stoics ask, what's the right thing to do? Even if it's hard, even if it's unpopular, even if no one's watching, that's power. Because when you live like that, you don't have to constantly reinvent yourself. You don't have to guess what matters. You either live by what's right or by what's easy, and Stoics chose right every time. Seneca put it this way, no man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. Principles are how you prove yourself. When you stick to your values, even when it's hard, that's where real self-respect comes from. That's how you build trust with yourself, not by being perfect, but by being consistent. And here's the bonus. People feel it. They can tell when you've got a real code, when you stand for something, when you don't fold just because things get tough. That's leadership. That's presence. That's what makes someone magnetic. Not because they're loud, but because they're grounded. So yeah, feelings come and go. They're waves. But principles, those are the anchor. And when you've got that, you're unshakable. Because when you're anchored in your principles, you're not just surviving. You're showing up on purpose. You're not just reacting to life. You're responding with intention. But even then, even when you're living by your values, life doesn't always go how you want it to. You'll still lose people, plans will fall apart. You'll get blindsided, humbled, tested. And that's where the next level of Stoic thinking kicks in. It's called amor fati, love of fate. Not just accepting what happens, but loving it. Yeah, even the bad stuff. Because the Stoics believed, what happens, happens for you, not to you. It's training. It's a forge. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That's not just a nice quote. It's a mindset. And it's exactly what separates the ones who rise from everyone else who just shuts down. Look at history. Viktor Frankl lost everything, his family, his freedom. He was thrown into a concentration camp and still found meaning. He wrote man's search for meaning in his head while being starved and tortured. He didn't ask why me, he asked, what now? Or take Thomas Edison. Dude watched his entire lab burn to the ground. Years of work. Gone. He didn't spiral. He didn't rant. He said, good, now we can start fresh. And kept building. That's amor fati. It's turning fire into fuel. And it's not about being fake positive. It's not delusion. It's not pretending everything's great. It's just saying, this is what's in front of me. I didn't choose it, but I choose how I meet it. Winners reframe. They don't see failure as the end, they see it as data. They don't call it defeat, they call it feedback. They're not afraid of falling, because they expect setbacks. They've already trained for it, mentally, emotionally, even physically. They know every loss, every mistake, every heartbreak is a chance to sharpen something inside. They're not asking, why is this happening to me? They're asking, why, right, what can I learn from this? What does this make possible? What now? That's the mindset. That's the edge. And it's not just powerful, it's freeing. Because once you stop fighting reality, you can start working with it. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start becoming the architect of your response. You don't just endure setbacks, you use them. That's what makes a Stoic unstoppable. Because when you stop reacting and start responding, when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" something shifts. You stop being in a rush. You realize the real game isn't fast. It's not about hacks. It's not about overnight anything. It's about staying power. That's the final piece of this mindset. Winners, real winners, and play the long game. And most people don't. Most people want quick results, quick wins, quick dopamine. They want to feel good now, succeed now, see results now. But the Stoics saw through that. They knew that anything built fast is usually built fragile. They were after something else: durability, depth, legacy. Epictetus said, "No great thing is created suddenly, not even the grape or the fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer you that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen." That's how it works. Growth takes time. Mastery takes time. Wisdom takes time. But most people get bored, or discouraged, or distracted. So they quit. They switch goals. They chase the next thing. They tap out the second it gets hard or slow. Winners don't do that. Winners stay on the path even when it's invisible, even when it's hard, even when there's no applause. Because they understand, progress isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it looks like nothing's happening on the surface, while everything is shifting underneath. That's why they don't chase motivation. They cultivate discipline. They don't need hype. They have vision. And they don't let temporary emotions destroy long-term goals. They've trained themselves to zoom out, to think in decades, not just days. To ask, who am I becoming if I stay consistent? What does this choice lead to in 5 years? Is this aligned with the kind of life I'm building? Because that's the Stoic mindset. It's not about doing what feels good now, it's about doing what's right and trusting the compound interest of that choice. And when things take longer than expected, they don't flinch. They remember, this is how it's supposed to feel. This is part of the deal. No one builds a meaningful life on shortcuts. No one earns peace by chasing chaos. The Stoics knew, what matters most will take the most time. And it's worth it. That's why winners don't rush. They plant, water, and wait. They show up when it's boring. They stay humble when it's working. And they keep going when it's not. Because they're not chasing moments. They're building momentum. And that's the difference. While most people chase the next big thing, winners are planting seeds, watering them, trusting the process, even when the progress is slow. They've trained themselves to think long-term, to stay steady, to be okay with silence while they build something real. And when you look at all of this together, the pattern is clear. What separates the Stoic winner from everyone else? It's not luck, it's not talent, it's not even being the smartest person in the room. It's how they think and how they show up. They focus on what they can control. They train for adversity before it arrives. They don't get carried away by emotions. They live by principles, not feelings. They reframe setbacks into fuel. And they play the long game, quietly, consistently, with vision. But here's the thing people get wrong about Stoicism. It's not about being cold. It's not about pretending nothing bothers you. It's about being grounded, intentional, clear on what actually matters so you don't get thrown around by what doesn't. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to keep showing up with integrity, resilience, and calm. Every single day. That's what Stoicism teaches, and that's what separates those who endure from those who fold. If you found value in this, consider subscribing so we can keep exploring these ideas together. Thanks for being here. Stay steady,